Performance in React. So I have a little demo here where I have a few components and I have an input that every time I change the value, the welcome input changes this value, and I have a button that sets a value, so it's like a counter that is displayed in here as well inside the button. And what happens is every time I click it, this welcome input gets displayed again, although the props that displayed do not actually show up. Why this is happening? So, well, there are actually, although the demo is really simple, there are actually a variety of things going on in this demo. So let's see how I have set it up. I set up a provider, a React provider, so that I can show things that happen when we use a context. I use some lifted state that is inside the root of our demo component, where I have the counter. The counter is used inside the counter component, which is effectively just a button that when it gets clicked, set count is set to set count plus 1. Then I have this provider, which essentially has a welcome message and set welcome message, and is used so that I can use those values throughout the application. In particular, I can take this value when I display the welcome input, and the demo is what you've seen. So let's have a look again. Every time I click the hello button, the welcome input renders. When I change the welcome input, also renders. So let's have a look at things one by one. Why is the input being rendered when React says that it's only going to re-render things when the props is going to change? Alright, so the reason why this is happening, this first welcome input re-render, and you're welcome to pause the video and try to figure it out yourself if you want to. Alright, let's go on and let's see why it happens. Here in choose a provider, we provide those values, welcome message and set welcome message. Those two values are a complex object, they're not a simple variable, they're an object. And React cannot infer whether this value has changed because it's an object. And the reason is that in JavaScript, object comparison only happens through reference, not through value. So to explain it, I'm going to use the console. I'm going to use a const a equal to 1, const b equal a equal to 1. So as you can see, a and b are basically effectively they have the same value. But if I do equal a equal to b, I actually get false as a statement. This is what React is using to do the comparison. We need to tell React somehow that the way the comparison is going to work for the object in this provider needs to needs to be compared in a different way. How can we do this? Well, React offers us something called useMemo, which is a memoization component, but it doesn't just do memoization, meaning you do a long computation. Actually, I have a video about this that you can check out. It does not do a memoization of values. It actually compares those values through an object called React useMemo. What does it look like? It basically looks like this. It's a React useMemo in which we are saying to React that the value, this value that we pass through, only changes when either welcome message or set welcome message changes. Okay, so now with this change, so we went from value being a plain object to value being a React.memo, we should get that this component should not re-render again when the counter changes. Why? Because we told it that the provider re-renders only when welcome message changes. So when I do a modification to the input, it's going to re-render, and we should see the welcome input is rendering in the console. But then when I do it, when I actually click the counter button and welcome message is just used and count is what is increased, then I should get no re-render. Alright, so let's have a look. Let's refresh the page. welcome input is rendered. The second render is because we are using React in strict mode. So let's clear the console, click hello, 1, 1, 2, and as you can see, the welcome input is being re-rendered. Okay, so what's going on here? Did I not say that this should not happen again? Well, yes, however, we do this for the values and then we pass through all the children's. Alright, so if you actually see the counter, the demo, we actually have the provider, but then we also have this count variable that is happening, and we are telling React, well, actually, make me update this variable, and because I am updating this variable, then the welcome input has to refresh, because in here I might have like a use effect or a set date, like for example I'm displaying the time of the day. So React is going to also refresh this component here. Alright, so how can I tell React that this component is actually a pure component, and when I want to refresh it only when some of the state variables actually change? So actually React comes to us and we have another utility method which is called react.memo, and this react.memo essentially works the same way as the provider where we use the react.useMemo. However, in this case it's for a component, so we're telling React this is a pure component which you should only refresh when the state variables are actually changing. So let's have a look again at the demo. Let's refresh the page, clear the console, and as you can see now this component is not anymore being re-rendered. Alright, so we have the counter, we have the welcome message with the button, and now in here let's have another look at what is going on with this component. So I'm gonna create a new component called stateless component, and I'm gonna add it to my demo performance just outside of the state. The stateless component, I just render a div that says I do not ever change. Pardon the layout. So what happens is that every time in this page is changing, of course in the subtree of the pages it's changing, then this irender is re-rendering. Why is this happening? Well, for a very similar reason to what was happening before. The stateless component, because the counter is changing in the other state, React doesn't know if in here I'm doing some side effects. Therefore, it's trying to say, well, to be safe, I'm going to re-render it, and if some of the props inside of it have changed, then I will be able to handle this scenario. So how can we fix this problem? Again, you can pause the video and go on your own if you want to give it a try, but that is how we're gonna do it. We're going to add a React memo around the component, so that with a React this is a component that we only want to re-render when some of the state inside the component is going to change. So if I go back to my demo, I refresh the page, we see a render happening here, and then when I click the button we do not see it rendering, even though the counter is changing here, and when I change the input it's only re-rendering the inside of the input. So that's everything for today. I hope this was a useful demonstration to you. If you liked the video, please leave a thumb up, and if you have any questions, please leave a message, and if there is something you would like to be discussed in the next video, leave a message below. Thank you very much and see you next time. Bye bye.